keep it loaded, keep it loaded, keep it loaded. Very nice, I'm looking at the camera. Heading on, good, good, good. Preloaders, VI Preloaders, welcome back to the channel, guys. Always a pleasure to have you guys here with me, and you know this by now, or at least you should. For those of you that have never been to this channel before, welcome to you as well. My name's Robert. I'm a retired NYPD Highway Patrol motorcycle lieutenant, and the name of this wonderful channel is Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle. Today, guys, I am down here in Savannah, Georgia. I'm on River Street, and if you've never ridden a motorcycle on River Street, you probably wouldn't want to, unless you are comfortable with the skill of riding in the friction zone. So I'm making this video because on my 3rd year anniversary, we rode down here, myself and a bunch of other content creators. And a lot of them had some stuff to say about riding on this road, and they were not happy. Like, they didn't like it. It made them feel uncomfortable.
All right, y'all, man. So we made it down here to downtown Savannah. And when I tell you, man, we was on the longest cobblestone street ever. I never want to do that again, man. My stress level was way through the ceiling, man. Like, I was not feeling that at all. I made it through, I almost dropped my bike a couple of times, but I didn't. But yeah, that's definitely not the preferred way that I would ever want to ride on that street ever again, man. So it's crazy though.
We decided to head on through downtown Savannah and make our way to River Street. When we get down there, we get on the cobblestones, and that is not for the faint of heart. The video really doesn't do it justice. This is a very challenging ride on this cobblestone.
Thank you, Mario and Tanya, for the footage of the SS GO Wing riding the cobblestones.
Wood Nation bros and broas, man, we just rode through the cobblestone of downtown Savannah. Bros and broas, we're solid ground now, but man, look, them cobblestones, that's gonna make you or break you. So if y'all live in Savannah.
So I decided to make a video about that because I understand why it makes them feel uncomfortable. And I kind of want to talk about that and how it relates to what we do all the time, what we talk about all the time on this channel. And that's being the boss of your motorcycle, meaning being comfortable riding it in the friction zone. So riding along these cobblestones, and if this was just cobblestones, it wouldn't be a big deal, but they're uneven, right? So it's putting your bike in it's like all over the place, right? So I say this all the time, guys. If you've never watched my videos before, it'll be new to you. But for those of you that are not new to this, if you ever feel uh-oh, meaning you feel something and it makes you feel like I'm gonna fall, I need to put my foot down. What's the answer? I'm pausing for dramatics because it's not like I can hear you, but the answer is you need to provide sufficient power to the rear wheel of the motorcycle. Remember, these motorcycles are designed with power to stand up and go straight. Stand up and go straight. Now, clearly, if you're on a cobblestone road and it's an uneven cobblestone road, speed is not the answer. And I mention that all the time, and that's why on the practice sessions that we do, I emphasize so much that speed is not the answer. Sufficient power to the rear wheel is all you need. Exercise number 2, that's what's going on here in real time. And so the reason why this is so uncomfortable is it's not just like a quick moment of uh-oh, it's a constant uh-oh. Because as long as you're moving, the motorcycle's like, oh. But sufficient power to the rear wheel, address it as soon as you feel it. And it's a small movement. And because we're already in the friction zone, it's not gonna be a lot of movement anyway. So the feeling you get while riding on uneven cobblestones is the same feeling you get when your motorcycle hits the lip of your driveway, or really anything that disturbs the balance of the motorcycle at a slow speed. You don't like the way that feels. So the only difference between the feeling that you get on the cobblestones, the uneven cobblestones, versus the lip on your driveway, is that on the cobblestones, that feeling is sustained. Whereas here, it's just a moment in time. Once you hit it, I don't like the way it feels, and then you can get right back to normal because the rest of the road is smooth. Whereas on the cobblestone, that feeling, you're feeling it the whole time you're moving. And you know what's funny? I thought about this. So we already know that power to the rear wheel, that's sufficient power to the rear wheel. That's the answer to uh-oh, right? That's the answer to uh-oh. So if you're on the cobblestones and you're feeling uh-oh the whole time, then that's the answer. Keep power to the rear wheel when you feel uh-oh and address it as soon as you feel it. Now, the thing about the uneven cobblestones, which also has something in common with the curb here, is usually riders like to introduce speed to make them feel better. But clearly, if you're on uneven cobblestones, that's not the road to be going fast on. And the curb is the same way. You don't want to hit this curb at a high speed, right? Although this curb does have some contour to it, so it won't be as bad, but you still don't want to do it. So like I always say, speed is not the answer, sufficient power is. So what this reminds me of is when you first start learning how to ride a motorcycle, or at least in my motorcycle school with the NYPD, and I know if you haven't heard about this, it's out there. It's a 2x4 test, right? We didn't use 2x4s, but people do use 2x4s. And all you do is put the front wheel against an object that's a little high. And the purpose of this exercise is to get you accustomed to the friction zone. And what you're supposed to do is open up the friction zone, and as the bike starts to move, pull it back in. Like you want to get the front wheel to go up on top of that board, but not all the way on top of it. You want to get it up and then pull it back in, up and then pull it back in. And that's giving you a feel of power from the rear wheel just by using the friction zone, helping you out in that instance. So essentially that's what you're doing here, guys. So as I'm pulling up to my driveway, I slow down to an appropriate speed so that I don't hit this hard. And as soon as I feel my front wheel hit the curb, I open up the clutch a little bit more. And that opening up the clutch a little bit more is just to get the bike over, get the front wheel over that lip on the curb. Once my front wheel is about right here, now I can pull the clutch in a little bit. Now my driveway is an upgrade, so, or should I say an uphill? It's on a grade that's upward. How about that? So I'm not gonna pull a clutch in too much because I'm still gonna need that extra power to get up this hill. I'm keeping my preload and keeping it loaded. I'm keeping my throttle loaded during that procedure, of course. And that's the thing. That's all it is, guys. Now, of course, guys, the amount of clutch that you have to open up, in other words, entering into the friction zone, the amount that you're going to have to do that is going to depend on how steep this curb is. All right, so some people will open up the clutch before they even get to it because they don't want to feel uh-oh at all. But just keep in mind, guys, this is why we're always covering the rear brake. If you hit this curb, I don't know if I like to use the word hit. When the front wheel makes contact with the curb, if it throws your bike way off balance and you don't like the way that feels, just open up the clutch a little bit. You're already in the friction zone anyway as you're approaching this, unless you're in the situation where you have the clutch in and you're coasting toward it. That's fine too, but you know, I find that it's better to already be in the friction zone doing exercise number 2 when you're coming up to something like this. Because if you're already in the friction zone, you're not going to have a lot of movement to get a little bit more into the friction zone. Versus if you have the clutch all the way in and you're coming to this and you feel that, uh-oh, now that's when you're going to have a tendency to either not open up the clutch enough or open it up too much. And, you know, but that's why we're always covering the rear brake. Remember, the rear brake is going to give us control and correction, control and correction. But that's something that you can eliminate by just simply being in the friction zone. Exercise number 2, rolling up. And then you don't have to wait until you feel it. Right before it. Now, if you're riding a motorcycle like this, Road Glide, or like Gladiator, my Pursuit with the fixed fairing, you have no clue where your front wheel is. No clue at all. You can guess where it is. So in that case, you know, start opening it up, and as soon as you feel it, just open it up some more. It's not like it's going to be an instance where, uh-oh, it's too late. As soon as you feel it, address it. Many people will address a smooth curb like this with speed, but that won't always work. For instance, right here, this is a squared off curb. Like, this is a real curb. It's not a really high curb, but this will still do damage to your rim if you try to hit this at a high rate of speed, or any rate of speed really that's too high. So the same things apply. And some people might go, well, why would I ever pull my motorcycle up a curb? Again, you never know what might be necessary, but that brings us back to the whole practicing giving us options. So I'm not saying that if you have to do this, you need to keep your feet on the boards or whatever, because this is not really practical. This is not something you're going to be doing often. But just like that cobblestone road, if a situation like this arises, you're not going to panic because you already know all you have to do is provide sufficient power to the rear wheel and the bike won't fall. In this case, you have to be a little bit more careful on the approach because, again, it's squared. You also have to be a little situationally aware of the clearance of your motorcycle. Like I said, this curb is not that high, but if it's a higher curb, you need to know if that's something that you can do. So guys, I'm not going to beat a dead horse about this. The moral of the story is sufficient power to the rear wheel. That's all you need to provide anytime you feel uh-oh on your motorcycle. And I really don't care what the situation is here. I've given you 3. A cobblestone road, again, the only difference is the uh-oh feeling is sustained, right? You're going to feel it as long as you're moving. The other thing is that cobblestone road that we rode down, like, it just rained. So they were wet. So I want you to think about that. If you even think about putting your feet down, that also brings into play stopping smoothly, because we had to stop, myself and Vanessa Challenger, who's with me in this video, and did some of the recording. I want to shout them out. But if you don't know how to stop your motorcycle smoothly on a smooth surface, dry surface, then when you have to do it on a surface that's not dry and not smooth, like those uneven cobblestones that are definitely slippery, see what I mean, guys? So if anybody tells you that what we do out here in this parking lot when we're practicing is only relevant in this parking lot, they are ill-advised, misinformed, and that any other way you can say that I'm telling you guys, this stuff is relevant all of the time. It doesn't mean you have to be thinking about it, because if it's already in your muscle memory, when a situation arises, you're just going to do what you need to do. And that's what it's all about, guys. That's why we come out here and we practice, because we want to build up the muscle memory so that when certain situations arise, it's not an uh-oh moment for us. We just do what we have to do. And 9 times out of 10, guys, providing sufficient power to the rear wheel is going to be the answer, or at least part of it. Isn't it amazing, guys, how the small things that we do out here reign supreme? I say this all the time. They're always relevant. And that's why the warm-up exercise, which is short starts and stops, the slow ride, trust and believe, right turn, left turns from a stop, but forget about the right turns, left turns from a stop, because without even turning yet, those 3 exercises that I just mentioned, as far as I'm concerned, are the bread and butter for you to be comfortable riding your motorcycle at slow speeds in the friction zone, period, right? It's my opinion, but I would love somebody to tell me otherwise, because if you're comfortable doing those things, it's gonna make all these other things easier. All right, listen, guys, that's all I'm gonna say about that. Again, I don't wanna beat a dead horse. Practice sessions in this parking lot here in Pooler, Georgia, we do them quite often. If you're interested in coming out here and practicing with us, all right, add yourself to my email notification list so you'll always be notified when I have these lessons. And they're beneficial. They really are. There's no pressure out here. This is not a competition. We're not setting stuff up really tight. You don't have to drag your boards. None of that stuff, guys. If you want to get to that, that's fine. But guess what? All of that starts with this, period. All right, guys? All right, if you're not subscribed to my channel, guys, please hit that button. Like button, same thing. That helps out the channel. Share these videos with people that you know and love. And hit that notification bell, switch it to all, so that you will always be notified whenever I put out one of these beauties. Guys, spend more time being thankful for the things that you have, less time complaining about the things that you don't. Seat time does not equal practice time. And if you have time to ride your motorcycle, you have time to practice on it. That is not my opinion. Until next time.